Hello to all of you. Hello, I hope you can hear me. Again, just let me know if you do. Hi, Dr. Laura. Just making sure you can hear me too.
Hello, good night, everybody.
Fantastic. Good to hear you as well. And welcome to our, again, IVF webinar tonight. This is our second event. So, well, I am so happy to see some familiar names already, but also welcome to anyone that joined us right now. Of course, as always, just let me remind you that we are able to be here thanks to our initiative Stronger Together. We are meeting here every day from Monday to Friday. You already know that, so that you can just learn and find out as much as possible on anything that is related to IVF treatment, as we all know that you are struggling and you are not able to continue with your treatment. However, you should definitely should, but also you can get to ask your own questions, but also meet the top experts, and they are simply here every day to support you, to help you out with your questions, to your concerns, anything that can help you out with this in this those uncertain times, and that way when it will be over, you will be ready to go ahead with the treatment as well. Okay. And of course, again, let me remind you about our ambassadors and partners. You can see them all right here on the screen. As always, it wouldn't be possible without having any partners or ambassadors. So, and some of them you probably already know. We had some patient meetings and we had some IVF webinars with some of them. With some other ones, we will actually have more events coming, so stay tuned as always. And today we will start with a very interesting topic. And of course, with us today is Dr. Laura García from Clinica Tambre, located in Madrid, in Spain, and she will be happy to answer your questions. But first, she will start with with her presentation on Will my baby look like me? It's about the phenotype matching and epigenetics guide. So I am sure all of you will find it very, very interesting and also useful. And well, I guess that is it for me. Remember to type in all of your questions in the chat section. All of this is being recorded, so again, you will have a chance to rewatch it. And well, Dr. Laura, are
I'm
you
ready.
ready?
Thanks a lot. So
Perfect.
again, good evening, everybody. I will start with my presentation. Today we will talk about will my baby look like me? And we will focus on phenotype matching and epigenetics guide in egg donation treatment. So what will we cover during this presentation? First, we will talk about donor selection, no matter if it's egg donation or sperm donor. We will talk about what physical characteristics we need to take into consideration from recipients. And we will also introduce the PhenoMatch technology, that we are one of the first clinics using this technology that really helps a lot to select the best donor. And to conclude, we will talk about epigenetics and what does it mean and what is the impact of epigenetics in egg donation treatment. So let's start with the first part, which is donor selection. We will talk a little bit about egg donors, and then we will move to sperm donors. So let's start with egg donors. The first selection criteria, it's the age. So regarding our law, we can only take, into consideration donors that are less than 35 years old, but the majority of our donors are less than 30. They need to have a minimum height of 1.55 meters and the maximum BMI, so the calculation between weight and height, maximum needs to be 30. but the ideal is to be around 20-25. We will have a first visit with the nursing team, and the nurse will have the anamnesis and the background of every donors. So we need to check there are no medical conditions, no hereditary diseases within their families, and everything is okay. And they will explain all the process with a lot of details to explain, how many times they need to come to the clinic during the process, what the egg retrieval does it mean. After this consultation with the nurse, they will, if they are accepted, they will have an interview with our psychologists in the clinic, including psychological tests on direct interview. And the psychologist will exclude any donor with personality disorders, with any problems she may consider the donor is not okay, or also problems regarding intelligence. So the psychologists need to check that everything regarding mental is okay. If all this process, so the nurse and the psychological consultation are all right, we will move to the medical tests. We will start with the general health research tests, such as complete blood count, blood group plus RH, biochemistry, and serology. Then we will move to gynecological tests, such as ultrasound with count of antral follicles to confirm that the ovarian reserve is all right. We will do smear tests and also vaginal culture and cervix for chlamydia, gonorrhea, mycoplasma, and ureaplasma. And also we will focus in genetics, and we will do karyotype to confirm they are normally in terms of chromosomes. And we will do recessive mutation diseases. We are doing 15 genetic mutations that are recommended regarding our society, including cystic fibrosis, beta thalassemia, X-fragile, and others. And of course, we will do the carrier status test of more than 300 genes called ERIS tests. Let's move to sperm donors. Regarding selection criteria, they need to be less than 35 years old, a minimum height of 1.7 centimeters, and the maximum BMI 30, as well as egg donors. They will have a first consultation with the andrology team, and we will do anamnesis as well to confirm there are no backgrounds, no medical conditions, no hereditary diseases within their family. So everything is all right in terms of medical, conditions. And also they will explain the process, how often they need to go for a sperm donation, and all this process. If they accept and everything is all right, they need also an interview with the psychologist, including psychological tests. And the last part is medical tests. So we will do as well general health research, such as complete blood count, blood group, biochemistry, serology. And we will move to andrological tests, such as sperm count in the spermiogram, sperm and urine culture, and PCR for chlamydia. And also, if everything is all right, we will go to genetic screening, and we will do karyotype and the recessive mutations, as well as the egg donors and the carrier status of more than 300 conditions called ERIS test. The selection will always be done by the center in order to respect an anonymity, and it will be based on the different parts. So we will take into consideration the physical characteristics of the recipient, the blood type of the recipient, the technology Phenotype that I will talk you later, the doctor-patient communication. This is very important because, of course, we will respect your preferences if everything is okay in terms of your physical characteristics. And we will also take into consideration immunological matching when needed. So if you're having a story of implantation failure or repeated miscarriage, we will do, in your case, the KIR. And if the result of KIR, it means that you are an negative prognosis KIR, which is the KIR AA, we need to select a specific HLA donor, which is HLA-C1C1, to improve your chances in terms of ongoing pregnancy. And of course, we will take into consideration the genetic matching if you want to do it. This is not obligatory, but of course, this is recommended, and we talk with all our patients. This is something that our society recommends to talk with you, and you can decide if you want to do it or not. So what is the egg donation treatment in terms of the donor and the recipient? What is included? So donors will be less than 30 years. They cannot have any reproductive problem. They will be checked for psychological, medical, and genetical tests. Of course, it's 100% anonymous regarding our law. The physical characteristics will be very important, and they will be the one doing ovarian stimulation and egg retrieval. Whereas the recipient will be doing the synchronization with donor, with the contraceptive pill, or with agonist. We'll do the endometrial preparation with estrogens, usually tablets, but also it's possible with patches. And it takes around 2 to 4 weeks to have the endometrium ready. And of course, the recipient will be the one doing and having the embryo transfer, and 100% will be the pregnant and the real mother of all this process. Let's talk about what are the physical characteristics that are important to take into consideration. So we have many years of experience in our clinic, and we have such a number of treatments in the clinic. So lots and lots of donors. And we have more than 2,500 samples stored in our bank, respecting very strict security rules. And it means we have a wide range of phenotypes and no waiting list for sperm or egg donation. And we can offer you the greater chance of finding the perfect donor in terms of physical characteristics and fertility results. So what is the information that the recipient needs to fill in? So patients need to hand in the following document included in the consent form of the treatment, and also a photograph of the recipient can be sent or taken at the clinic to have as much information as possible. Let's talk about this technology, Phenotype. It is a facial matching with a scientific tool that uses biometric technology to identify facial point distances, and it allows us a very accurate selection of the donor regarding concrete facial features. So how do we select the donor with Phenotype? Using a simple photograph of the patient's face, the algorithm scans more than 12,000 data points in order to find a donor with the greatest biometric similarity. This means that donor-conceived children are more likely to look like their parents, and this gives an opportunity to confirm that everything regarding your aspect will be taken into consideration. So our result, we will always choose the donor that suits you the best. The higher score in facial features after having done a previous selection of several donors regarding physical characteristics and blood type. Patients will receive a report certifying the use of Phenotype during the selection process. To conclude, let's talk about epigenetics. What is the meaning? and what is epigenetics in donation treatments. In biology, epigenetics is the study of heritable phenotype changes that do not involve alterations in the DNA sequence. Gene expression can be changed depending on the environment, so the phenotype can also be determined by our surrounding, not only gene inheritance. Epigenetics control genes. Environment can activate or silence determined genes, and this will affect the appearance of the person. Epigenetics is everywhere: what we eat, where we live, who we interact with, and epigenetics makes us unique. The different combination of genes make each person unique, and even epigenetics can be hereditary. So what is epigenetics in donation treatments? Even if genes come from the donor, the baby can look like the recipient because of the influence of the environment. Our mind always tries to search for similarities between family members, but there are many families where the sons look only like the father or the mother, or don't even have similar characteristics to any of them. And many patients, after having their babies, tell us, or even we prove when they are coming to the clinic, that other people tell them how their baby looks like them. So let's move to the conclusion part. And let's talk right now about ideas to take home. Donor selection is a very tedious process, including medical, psychological, and physical requirements. Our exhaustive selection regarding physical features increases the likelihood that the child will look like you. And the baby develops with your environment from the beginning, and this will have an important influence in the phenotype thanks to epigenetics. So I will resume how we do the selection criteria. We will try to select 5 to 10 donors regarding your physical characteristics and blood type. Then we will take into consideration the phenomatch and the genetic matching screening, and we will select the best donor for you. So thanks for your attention, and everything will be fine in terms of your treatment and hopefully in terms of COVID situation. And I will give now the opportunity to make me whatever you need in terms of questions or doubts.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your presentation and explaining to us how it all works. And of course, we already have some questions, and sometimes we also have some discussions right here. But of course, let me go to the very first question we have. When you say physical characterization, what characters do you mean?
Yeah, so this is height, this is weight, this is color of eyes, color of hair, color of skin, and complexity of the body.
Perfect. Thank you for that question and you helping out as well. And now we have another question here. And what does a KIR means? What is a HLA-C1 donor? Can you comment anything on this?
Of course, this is a very important question. So it is not a routine test. It's only performed in women having negative prognosis, such as, implantation failure cases or repeated miscarriage. So then in this recipient, we will test these KIR receptors, or receptors of the cells and of the lymphocytes. And then if she's having a negative KIR result, which is the KIR AEA, it means that we really need to select a donor having a blood test called HLA with the result C1.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much again for your question and your help with this as well. And there are some questions in regards to, they are quite similar, of course, about your clinic. So do you have any Asian donors? There is also, do you have any Thai donors as well?
Yes, we have Asian donors, and we have a very big sperm bank in our clinic. So we have all of these characteristics.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. I believe this is like a very common question. Of course, you mentioned that the egg donation is anonymous in Spain, but could you add anything, as we have very similar questions here? So no real pictures of the donors, and may I see the picture of the donor which you choose for me? Can you add anything on this?
Unfortunately, this is not permitted regarding our law, so you will only have, after the treatment, the age and blood type of your donor.
Exactly. Thank you so much.
So that's the reason why you need to really choose a clinic that gives you, that you really trust a lot, because you cannot see the picture. So you really need to trust a lot in your doctor and, the clinic for this selection criteria.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much for clearing this up for us. As I mentioned, this is something that is very common, and I'm sure you're hearing this kind of question quite often as well. Okay, and now we have another question here. If I have a baby using an egg donor and the child has a DNA test, will the child at all be related to me?
So I suppose it means that if the DNA test of the child and the DNA test of the mother, of the recipient, unfortunately, it will not be similar. So the child, if it's doing this kind of test, could eventually know that it's not genetically of her mother. I think I have correctly understand the question, but if not, please try again.
Of course, I believe that's what the patient meant. But of course, if you would like to add anything, just go ahead, and we'll be happy to go back to the question. And of course, Dr. Laura will be able to answer. This is a short question. I'm not sure, but let's see. How much does this test cost, KIR test? Do you have any idea?
So I'm very bad with financial costs, but I think it's something around 150 euros, something like this, but I cannot confirm. But of course, my colleagues at the clinic, the patient care coordinator, will give you the answer.
Exactly, of course. And remember, you can just simply use the link that I'm sending to you, and there is your chance to ask your also questions as well. And you will be connected with Dr. Laura and her team, and they will be able to give you the exact price list, etc. I am sure. Okay, and now let me go to the next question. Can we do all the tests in our own country clinic and come to Spain only once for the transfer? Or how many times do we need to come on average?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. Usually, if it is a recipient with a partner having the sperm part, we do recommend to come for a first consultation visit to confirm that the sperm is absolutely fine. And then we will freeze the sperm with the maximum guarantees. And then we will move to the egg donation treatment in the laboratory. So then they need to come the first for the sperm freezing and the second for the embryo transfer. But of course, it's also possible to come only once. So in a period of around 1 week for the sperm fertilization of the eggs and the embryo transfer. So it's 1 or 2.
All right. Thank you so much for explaining that to us as well. And let me show you the next question. I have got B blood sensitization. What does this mean for me when going for a female donor?
So probably it means that this person needs to have a specific selection in terms of blood type of the donor.
Mm-hmm.
So we will need a specific report of the doctor confirming what are these sensitization and what kind of selection of the donor we really need to take into consideration. But we have very complex cases in our clinic, and we have very important and specific cases where we need to have the advice for specific questions in the donor, and that's absolutely fine. There's no problem at all.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you so much again for your question and helping out. And we have a few questions that are connected with the donors, etc. How you are doing it, of course, how you are choosing. Is there like a minimum of education level that donors have?
So it's not a minimum of education, because I'm always telling my patients I'm a doctor, because in terms of education and in terms of intelligence and environment, everything was all right. So for us, the most important is the intelligence and the personal abnormalities to be excluded. So that's the reason why the psychologist needs to confirm they are absolutely fine. So the majority of them are studying in the university. But of course, we also have mothers of child that, they're just working at home or, taking care of child. And as they know, they are, fertility proven people, they can offer, eggs and help other people. But we don't have a minimum educational level test.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's more to do with intelligence.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much again for your question and helping us out here as well. And now we're having again some similar questions in regards to nationality. Okay, so it's the first one: are English donors given English donor, or is it all based on characteristics? And let me show you the next one, as it is: can I opt for a specific nationality as a donor exclude others? Is it possible?
So as our law and our system informs us that everything needs to be regarding physical characteristics, we will only take into consideration these, and we will not exclude any nationalities.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So only, so not possible to find out education, but also nationality. It's not possible to find out, of course. And I of course, this is another question about if the children can find out some more information about the donor when they are 18. Of course, I guess in Spain it's not possible. But anything you could add to this?
Correct. In our country, regarding our law, it's absolutely anonymous. So the child is not, it's not an option to find out anything about the donor. Only what the clinic will transmit to the recipient.
Perfect. Thank you for clearing this up for us as well. And we will, okay, perhaps this is like a very general question, but if you could take a look, what are the most liberal, transparent countries in terms of donor information? Do you have any information on that?
I suppose in the US, there are some states where they can really, select the egg donation. Regarding Europe are different laws, so they need to check in every country how it works in every country.
Perfect. Of course. Thank you so much again. And now we have like two questions. Very again, those are quite similar. Is this KR test very new? I've never heard of it. Is it similar to the ERA test?
Thank you for the question. There's nothing to do the cure with the ERA test. ERA test is an endometrium receptivity test to confirm if the days of progesterone are necessary to be 5, or we need to do the embryo transfer before or later, whereas KIR is absolutely different. It is a receptor in our lymphocytes, and women having an KIR AA are more likely to have miscarriage or implantation failure. So then this is the need why we need to select specific donors to try to reduce this impact of KIR AA.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much again. And another question in regards to KIR test. I don't understand exactly what you're testing, okay, with the KIR test. What are you seeking to understand about the woman who has had implantation failure, and what are you then understanding about the donor? What is it that has to be comparable?
So again, if there is a woman, complex case having implantation failure, we're going to study a lot of tests, but also we will select a specific donor to try to maximize chances of ongoing pregnancy, because we know when there is a woman having lots of embryo transfers and never implant or repeated miscarriage, sometimes it's due to coagulation disorders, sometimes it's due to chromosomes disorders, perhaps because of the sperm partners, but sometimes it's because of immunological condition. So this KIR test, it's something to do with immunology of the recipient, and if there is a kind of negative affection of their own immunological system, we need to try to select the best donor in terms of immunological system as well, to try to make it work the best. And we have the maximum options to give you the ongoing pregnancy.
All right. Thank you so much again for your question and helping out. There is another question here. Do you recommend a couple who has never had a pregnancy naturally by endometriosis to have KIR and HLC test done before the transfer?
If they've never had implantation failure and it's everything to do with endometriosis, it wouldn't be necessary. And I'll just go ahead with the normal screening of the recipient and the donor.
Perfect. Thank you so much again. And there's another question. Let me just... okay, it's about the KIR. Is the abbreviation for? So what does it mean actually? Is there like a? Could you just explain again what that's?
Yes, of course. So the KIR, it's the receptors of the NK cells, and it is a receptor where it's very complicated to how to say, to explain you, but it's the receptor in the NK cell that will allows us or inhibit us the implantation of the embryo. So if we're having implantation failure or repeated miscarriage, depending on every patient, perhaps we're going to test these KIR receptors in the lymphocytes, in the NK cells, and confirm if they are having a bad prognostic KIR, which is the KIR AA, and we need to select specific donors in terms of immunology.
All right. Thank you for explaining that as well. And let me show you the next question. If you could just add something to this as well. If there is no common DNA at all, what exactly then is epigenetics?
So epigenetics is the file where the DNA of every embryo will be absolutely different if there is one utero being, the pregnant or another, if there are, a good diet, if there is, exercise, so this is the environment that will modulate the expression of the DNA. But of course, there is nothing to do with the transmission of the own DNA of the mother. It's only that the same embryo in one woman or another, it's different expression in terms of, physical characteristics, personality, expression of genes to do with diseases. And this is the epigenetics meaning. So the environment will modulate the expression of that embryo.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for explaining that to us again. And let me just show you, it's about the KIR again, but if you could take a look. So it's when your immune system is overactive and it attacks the embryo. Sorry to ask again, just checking. Anything you could add?
Yeah, it could be expressed more or less like this. So, but of course, if they want more information about that, we can have specific consultation via Skype or wherever to inform what is that meaning. But yes, it could be something like this. It's like, you know, the immunological system of a woman having KIR, it has less chances to implant because their own system could affect and attack the embryo.
Mm-hmm. All right, perfect. Thank you for clarifying this for us as well. Okay. Okay, this is actually an interesting question. Okay, if the baby doesn't look like me, is there any guarantee?
So unfortunately, there's no guarantee in life. So I'm a mother of 2 children, and they are own childs, and there's one that really looks like me, and the other does not. And there's not guarantee. This is biology. This is not mathematics. So what we can guarantee is that the donor will look like you, but we cannot guarantee what's going, to do with the baby. But of course, this is something important, which is physical characteristics. But of course, 100% will be your baby, no matter how he or she will look like. She or he will be your baby, and everything will be perfect.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you so much for again for answering that question and explaining to us. And if you could comment something on that, how does epigenetics affect the physical characterization of the potential child?
So epigenetic cannot change the type of color of eyes or type of hair. This is more to do with the general expression of the embryo. And what we were telling before is that the same embryo in one uterus or another, with kind of pregnancy, taking care, vitamins, sport, or an absolutely different pregnancy, without taking care, with drugs, etc. This is absolutely different. But epigenetics, it's not only to do with physical characterization of the potential child.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again for answering that question. And we have 2 very same questions. How do you do any IQ tests for egg donors? I believe you've mentioned that, but it seems that it's kind of interesting for our patients, as this is another one here.
Yes, thank you for that important question. So that's the reason why we're having the psychologist in our clinic. Not all the clinics are having a psychologist. So she's doing interview directly to check, everything is all right in terms of intelligence. And she's doing the tests to confirm there are no EQ problems and personality disorders.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Thank you again for that. And let me go to the next question. Would you be able to transfer 2 embryos, or is there a limitation to only 1 embryo at a time?
So very interesting question. Thank you. And we do recommend 100% of times to transfer only 1 embryo. We try to avoid transfers of 2 because we want to maximize the ongoing pregnancy, the healthy baby, and the healthy mother. So of course, if we transfer 2 embryos, there is a possibility that some of the embryos are both split out, and then it could be tripleton or 4th babies in pregnancy. So we do recommend 100% 1 embryo, but of course, if the patient is asking to do 2 embryos, same time, we need to take into consideration healthy problems, particular situation, and see if we can accept or not.
Thank you again so much for that. And we will go back to the question about the blood sensitization. What do you mean exactly? That the female donor must have the same blood group like mine, or either like my husband's, I am B negative and my husband is B positive?
Yeah, so usually the sensitization is to do with the negative RH. So then it means that this person needs 100% donor, which is negative as well. But in that specific case, we need to check what is the sensitization, what are the results, and see if it's only the RH negative that we need to select in the donors, or there are other specific antigens or any other tests that we need also to carry out in the donor.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Thank you again for that interesting question. And let me go to the next one. What about lymphotherapy? Do you have experience to use it? And what about the use of GCSF inside of uterus?
So thanks for your question. And we do have an immunologist unit in our clinic. And of course, if necessary, we do recommend, depending on each person and every single results, what type of treatment in terms of immunological. And we know the GCSFI inside the uterus, but normally we are not doing this, and we are more likely to go for corticoids such as prednisone or immunoglobulin infusions, or even Dolkin, whatever, but not really this kind of approach.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that one for us as well. And we will again go back to the KIR question. Okay. It seems that we have many patients that are wondering still how it's working. First one is, could you kindly explain how the KIR test is carried out and in what way you would match with appropriate donor?
So thanks again for this care test. Unfortunately, I think I have not correctly explained during my presentation. So this is a blood test that will only be carried out in recipients if they have adversal bad events such as implantation failure or repeated miscarriage. And then if they are having a negative KIR result, which is the KIR AA, it means that we need to have a blood-specific test in the donor to confirm that the donor is HLA-C1, because in the KIR AA, the best combination to try to maximize ongoing pregnancy, it's HLA-C1.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you so much. And this is again, if you could just confirm or just take a look. My understanding is that NK cells are natural killer cells. When women who have high NK cells are prone to miscarriage because the NK cells basically attack the embryo. This is what KR checks for. Is my understanding correct?
So thanks a lot for this question regarding also KIR and NK cells. So these are in the same field of immunological conditions, but are different. So we can have normal NK cells range and percentage, but by contrast, we have the receptors of NKs that are, bad prognostic. So it's kind of the same, but it's different tests and different possible problems that could lead in terms of immunological disorders in a pregnancy test.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you. Hope that was helpful to you now, and you this is a bit easier as well. There's another one here. Bloodstream NK cells are the same for NK uterine cells?
It's kind of different if you check in blood and in the uterine cavity. So not all the articles are reported with, blood or uterine. So it really depends on the literature. In our clinic, we are traditionally taking into consideration the blood NK.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your question and explaining this to us. And we have another one, quite a short one, but let's see. So with a donor egg, the mother will be biological mother and legal mother, but not genetic mother. Is that right?
Absolutely right. This is the correct approach and the correct phrase for egg donation.
Exactly. Perfect. Thank you so much for confirming this. Again, you have mentioned that, but let me just show this question. So that means no IQ test for the donors, only psychological tests.
Yeah, correct. We do not do a specific EQ test because if in the direct interview or in the psychological test we think there's a problem with that donor, then we do not even go for an EQ test and she will be excluded. So we need to confirm there is no suspicious of intelligence problem.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you so much again for this. And how do you find out the age of the donor after the embryo transfer? Is this on a report with a picture of the embryo transferred?
Yes, we will report after the embryo transfer when the woman will be, pregnant. We will transmit the age of the donor because it's very important during the pregnancy to inform the gynae the age of the egg to have the risk of Down syndrome.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you so much again for explaining this to us. And there is another question here. I have one child that looks exactly like my husband. If I use an egg donor, what is the possibility that the baby will look like my husband and brother? Is there a way to find out the dominant gene?
I mean, we have lots of patients that they are reporting that in egg donation the baby is 100% like their husband. Okay, so I think again it's more likely to do with our tendencies, what we want to check, you know, and what we want to see. Of course, we need to take into consideration this specific couple and confirm if we can, select the physical characteristics of her husband.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you again for your question and your answer as well as always. And also, there are like a few questions left, but we will be slowly finishing. So if you have any questions, just go ahead and type them all in right now so we can answer them for you. And now let me go to the next question. So does transfer of donor eggs occur in a fresh cycle? I would rather go for fresh cycle rather than the frozen cycle.
Yeah, the 95% of our embryo transfers is always with fresh. So only if, the woman going, the recipient is not flexible in terms of dates and needs to have specific date of the embryo transfer, we're going with vitrified eggs. But otherwise, we're going with fresh donation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And there is one more here that I have. Which tests are recommended for someone with several IVF with donor egg failures?
So we really need to study this case because if it's a lot of embryo transfers of donor egg failures, we need to go for endometrium tests such as ERA, endometrial hysteroscopy. We need to also check coagulation and immunological disorders such as what I was telling about KIR, NK, thrombophilia, and check if we need to use complementary treatments. And then also we need to study the embryo if there is a suspicion that the embryo was abnormal because of the sperm was, not okay. Normally we're recommending the husband or the partner, if it is a person going with doing this treatment with her couple, to do for also specific tests in the sperm.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Thank you for answering that question again. And as well, as I've mentioned, we will be slowly finishing, but let's give it a minute if anyone else has any more questions. I do see someone typing, so let's wait and make sure. Okay, that is a thank you. So I guess we will be finishing. But also, in the meantime, let me remind you that if you wish to get some more answers, if you are interested to get in touch with anyone, with Dr. Laura, of course, but also and would like to get some more details on treatment options, etc., you can actually go to this website. I'm sending the link right now, and you will be able to simply get in touch with the team from Tambre. As I've mentioned, I am sure they will be happy to assist you and help you out as much as possible. Again, I can see someone is typing, so let me check. Okay. Actually, I can answer that question. Actually, the webinars are they are recorded, and of course, they will be available exactly on the page that I have sent you right now. The link you can see, and they are going to be there. Okay, I cannot promise you that they will be tomorrow, but we are definitely working very hard to make sure that all of those are posted on our website. And okay, if you could, Dr. Laura, we have another question, a very short one, but if you could have a look at it. Okay, sorry, here it is. If we try embryo adoption, what will be the best kind of test then?
So thanks for your question. Again, we need to study your case, and the test will be perhaps endometrium test to confirm there are no abnormalities in the reception, and also check if we need to go for coagulation or immunological test, or it's only your first round and it's not necessary to add specific tests.
Okay, thank you so much. Actually, there was one more that showed up just right now. If you could add anything, anything right here, sorry. How can you tell the age of the embryos? Is it possible?
So, I mean, we're not going to tell the age of embryos because embryos have no age. We can say if the embryo is day 3 or day 5, okay? And of course, if you are talking about the age of embryos that are frozen in our clinic, we cannot transmit this information. But the age, the important is the age of the donor. So it's different if the donor is having 20 or if the donor is having 28, because that's the age you will need to transmit to your obgyn to do the specific following during your pregnancy.
Fantastic, thanks so much. And there's like a very short follow-up question. So how long they can be stored, I guess?
So the embryos and the eggs can be stored till the age of 50 for the recipient. So we do recommend to transfer before, of course, but this is, the possibility till the age of 50.
All right, thanks so much. Okay, sorry, one more showed up just now. Is there a price difference between fresh and frozen cycle?
No, it's exactly the same. There are no differences.
Fantastic. Thanks again. Someone is typing, so let's give it a okay. This is like a thank you. And well, I guess we will be finishing for today. As I mentioned, if you have any other questions and you would like to get connected with Dr. Laura and her team, you can do that. And of course, you can also just ask me. I'll be happy to forward your requests. That is never a problem. So thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Laura. It's definitely a pleasure to have you here. And of course, we will be continuing having those webinars with you. Always happy to do it together. And well, as you can see, there are some more patients that are definitely happy with how you have answered their questions. More of those right here. Perfect. Thank you. And is there anything else that you would like to add, Dr. Laura?
Thanks a lot for your time. Thanks for listening us. And I hope I have explained you a little bit more about egg donation and the selection criteria in our clinic.
Yes, I believe so. Definitely, of course, as well. And so, again, thank you so much for joining. It's always a pleasure to be here with you and do again a webinar. And of course, remember, this will be uploaded on our website. I have sent you the link before, but all other webinars or online patient meetings you can find on myivfanswers.com. And you can also register already for our next event that is going to happen tomorrow at 6 p.m. UK time, and then the other one at 8 p.m. UK time. And you can also follow us on YouTube channel, or you can check our Facebook page, Instagram, and you will be up to date with all of those events. Stronger Together initiative is something that I'm sure I already saw some comments, so I know it's something that you are looking forward to see more of those events, etc. So thanks a lot. Have a lovely evening. Thank you, Dr. Laura, again. And
Thanks a lot.
thank you. See you very soon, I guess.